Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Trade Genius Podcast. Bob and Phil here as always. This next video we're going to do is going to talk about what's coming for the big cities. It's not good. It's going to create a lot of mayhem. It's going to create a lot of defaults, and it's going to probably take out the rest of the regional banks as we know it. You're not going to want to miss this video, so let's dive in.
Trade Genius.
Hey guys, really briefly before we jump into this video, appreciate all the likes and subscribes, and if you can ring that notification button, that really helps us out. In addition to that, if you guys don't mind, head over to tradegenius.co, check out our specials we have over there. We're running our February specials. There's a number of different specials with different packages for all different experience types. If you're more into education, we have a package for that. If you just like to get into the room, primarily, we have a package for that as well, where you can see where we're calling out trades and things like that live, and also posting signals into our Discord signal rooms. So check it out, tradegenius.co. Appreciate you doing that. Hey, Bob. So, we touched on the commercial real estate problem before. It's getting worse. So bring us up to date on what's going on now.
Yeah, I mean, Phil, your lead-in sounded like it was a bad thing. I mean, you're talking about maybe San Francisco and New York, are going to get absolutely pummeled into submission with this commercial real estate. We have a perfect storm hitting us here. Number one, we have people that are leveraged the wrong way on loans. We have $150 billion worth of commercial real estate that has to be refinanced this year alone. And those guys got loans in the 1% to 2% range. And now they're going to be refinancing at 7, 8, 9% if they get financing at all. Number two is that with the pandemic response, people simply left those cities.
Right.
And number three, with the way in which crime is being adjudicated there, is that it's a free for all. It's anarchy in these cities. And then now, with other costs, businesses that support them are going under. So it's going to be a really big problem here. And what's different this time than last time is that a lot of these commercial real estate projects were funded by hedge funds and by private money and by people that would pool and invest together. But this time, because interest rates were so low, the banks were so hungry for yield, is that if you put the next slide up, is the regional banks took the fore on this and they raised their exposure from 50 to 68%. That means more than 2/3 of all loans done by regional bank are commercial real estate. And you and I have been talking about commercial real estate for years. Anybody who ever asks me, I'm like, run away. Don't even hang around to see. Don't turn around. You become a pillar of salt, right? So this is going to be a big problem. And it's not just commercial real estate. It's multifamily apartments in these cities, because as people flee these cities are going to raise their tax rates. And then you got this crazy stuff they're doing in San Francisco with reparations. Whether it's a good idea or a bad idea is irrelevant. $5 million per resident that qualifies. Who's paying for that? And so it's going to be a problem. And, it's so funny because it's when I mean funny, ironic, the regulators are always running to the rescue after the barn has burned down. They could have saw this coming 4 or 5 years ago, except that, when things are good, the politicians and the executive branch doesn't want to be bothered with bad news. They don't want to be the ones that actually cause the bad news. They'd rather have bad news happen and come in to rescue. But look at this chart of the CREs, Phil. So they have a high exposure, it increased, and now they're trapped.
Yeah.
And it's a problem. So what do you think about this?
I was thinking with the Silicon Valley Bank default, right? And that killed a lot of the startups, at least for the moment. And you and I both know that as we go forward, the tech startup business is dead, because we're going, the credit's going to contract. There's not going to be any funding for it. That Silicon Valley Bank was just the first crack in that. So you're going to have this compounding effect, because now you have even less demand, like in areas like the West Coast, for office space, because from Silicon Valley, it sprawls out. And so these places, they'll set up shop in San Francisco and other parts of the coast there. So I just think it's a compounding problem. And I also think, going back to what the Fed plan was, I think, is ultimately they knew that it was going to come to this, and these banks were going to succumb to this. I mean, you can't tell me they didn't know that regional banks took up 68% of real estate loans. I mean, that's a massive part of the market. So, they knew they were going to be able to trap door them. And that was okay, because the big eight were going to come in and assimilate them, basically, like the Borg. So I think it plays into the Fed's plan of trying to corral the credit market to draw it down. And this is one tool that they have, but it's going to create a lot of pain. And I think it's going to put a lot of businesses out of business, especially if you're in the commercial real estate business. I don't see how you have any revenue coming in. One gentleman that was in that article said that he felt like commercial real estate was like the DVD and it's not coming back. We've moved on to a new era post-pandemic where we do things more efficiently. And these overhead behemoths are a thing of the past now.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, just set commercial real estate aside for a second, is that with these banks, with this credit contraction that's coming, that these guys fund auto loans too. They're not going to be funding auto loans. They fund the growth of local businesses in their community. And that's all going to start getting nationalized up into these corporate behemoths where you don't get the, hey, I know this guy for 20 years kind of a thing.
Right.
I know he's good for it. It's all going to be very, very mathematical. It's going to be a problem. The politicians are going to hate it because these banks they support campaigns, local and regional campaigns. And so there's going to be some big pushback there too. And this will all start daisy chaining around all these other things I referred to in the beginning. And, I personally think, Phil, what's really interesting is that I think the gloves are coming off with the shadowy powers that are behind our country and our world. We are definitely seeing a war now where Jerome Powell feels that he must kill this beast, before it kills them or kills us, meaning Wall Street, international, where you just don't stop the printing press, where he's like, I'm going to be the bar on the door here, and I'm going to have to kill people's ability to be able to just run and cry and get dessert, and I think he's really going to do a cleanse here. And I think it's going to be brutal. And that's why we've been warning people. This isn't going to be like 2008, guys, where it ran up, the market started to crash and things started to happen, and then they ran right in and threw a lot of money. What he has done is that he's thrown money at the depositors. He's not thrown money at the banks. And people need to understand that, okay? He threw enough money at the depositors to allow the banks to re-engineer their business. And re-engineering it means that we're not going to loan anybody money. And so, you saw what we talked about yesterday where people are bypassing the banks and going directly to the Fed. There's only going to be two people that are going to be lending money out in the future: federal government and the Fed. Back to you, Phil.
Yeah, Bob, one thing I wanted to show them, and we'll wrap it up, is this is the chart of the financial conditions index. And so the higher this line goes, the tighter the financial conditions are. And, it's very easy to see like we're nowhere near where it becomes like recessionary. Even at the peak of the COVID, we barely poked over they think it's 0.2 or 0.3 here. And then, obviously the great financial crisis, which they might dub this GFC 2.0, Bob. They're saying like, what's this one going to be? And it might be the great financial crisis 2.0. What scares me is that people know this stuff's coming, but it's either, how it goes. If everybody's looking for something, either it falls short or it exceeds expectations. And I'm really worried that we're going to exceed expectations to the negative. But you can see where when the wheels start popping off and where the Fed starts to have to cut, we should see financial conditions very tight. And right now we're not in an area that it's very tight. I mean, we're in areas that we were in even after in the bear market of the .com bust. I mean, we're similar financial conditions. So if Powell's going to take us into a recession and he hasn't even really started the credit tightening cycle that they're promising us we're going to get, things are going to get really tough. I think a lot of people that are used to financing things in this market are not going to get it. And so anyway, I just wanted to show people where we are now versus where this thing's probably going to end up going.
Simply scary, Phil. Simply scary.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, guys, well, that's going to do it for this video. Tomorrow, we're going to talk markets. We're going to look back at the week in the market and as well as what this market is doing in terms of how it's going to be affecting gold and Bitcoin. You're not going to want to miss that. So we'll see you on tomorrow's video. Thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe and smash that notification bell and set it to all if you can. That would be very, very helpful. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Trade Genius.